Welcome back to episode 17 of the Sleepy podcast. I apologise it's been many months since my last upload, but I have decided to bring this series back and try and focus on doing this daily, at least for a little while, and see how it goes. Anyway, the topic of today's video is the Formula 1 driver Mick Schumacher. I'm reading from a Wikipedia article by that name. Mick Schumacher, born the 22nd of March 1999, is a Swiss-born German racing driver. He races for Haas in Formula 1 under the German flag. He is a member of the Ferrari Driver Academy and a reserve driver for Scuderia Ferrari. He began his career in karting in 2008, progressing to the German ADAC Formula 4 by 2015. After winning the 2018 FIA F3 European Championship, Schumacher progressed to Formula 2 in 2019 and won the 2020 Championship for Formula 2. He is the son of seven-time Formula 1 champion Michael Schumacher and the nephew of Ralf Schumacher, who is also a Formula 1 driver and I believe a race winner. Personal life. I apologise if I mispronounce anything here. Schumacher was born and grew up in Switzerland, living in, I'm not even going to attempt to say it, I apologise, until 2008, and then in Gland. He is the son of seven-time Formula 1 world champion Michael Schumacher and Western Riding European champion Coronia Schumacher. His uncle Ralf Schumacher is a retired racing driver, and his cousin David Schumacher, who I believe is the son of Ralf Schumacher, is a racing driver as well. Again, I think he's in Formula 3 as of time of recording. Schumacher is the step-nephew of Sebastian Stahl and the grandson of Elizabeth and Rolf Schumacher. Schumacher was skiing with his father when Michael suffered a life-threatening brain damages on 29th of December 2013. In March 2017, Mick first talked publicly about his father, describing him as my idol and my role model. Again, this is just me speaking here, but as a fan of Formula 1, and I grew up as a fan of Michael Schumacher, it's very nice to see just how much Mick clearly loves his father and he is his role model. It's just very nice as a fan to see it. Before the start of the 2017 Belgian Grand Prix, he drove his father's championship-winning Benetton B194. He drove another of his father's championship-winning cars, the Ferrari F2004, in a demonstration before the 2020 Tuscan Grand Prix at Mugello. To mark Scuderia Ferrari's 1000th Formula 1 race, wearing his father's helmet for the occasion. Career. Schumacher started his motorsport career in 2008. To avoid attention because of the fame of his father, he started under his pseudonym of Mick Betch, which was his mother's maiden name. Karting. For anyone who doesn't know, many Formula 1 drivers and IndyCar drivers start out go-karting. In 2011 and 2012, Schumacher drove in the KF3 class of the ADAC Kart Masters, ending in 9th and 7th respectively. In the Euro Winter Cup of the KF3 class, he was 3rd in 2011 and 2012, and in 2012 was 3rd in the KF3 rating DMV Kart Championship. In 2013 he finished 3rd in German Junior Kart Championship and the CIK FIA Super Cup KF Juniors. In 2014 Schumacher used the name Mick Jr. and started in international and national junior championships, ending the season 2nd in the German Junior Kart Championship as well as the European World Championship. Although he did not race in karting under his real surname, his success in karting was picked up by the international press. ADAC Formula 4. At the end of 2014, he completed test drives for Genza Motorsport in a Formula 4 racing car. In 2015, Schumacher started racing in the Formula classes at the time, racing for Van Amersfoort. I'm sorry, I definitely said that wrong. Racing in the ADAC Formula 4 using the Schumacher name. In 2016, Schumacher remained in ADAC Formula 4, but switched to Prema Power Team, a team known for its close links to the Ferrari Drivers Academy. He also ended up in the Italian Formula 4 Championship, and finished runner-up in both championships to Joey Mawson and Marcos Seibert respectively. Formula 3. In November 2016, Schumacher made his first appearance in Formula 3 machinery by taking part in the MRF Challenge, a championship based in India. He competed in the upper Formula 2000 class and finished the series in third place, collecting 4 wins, 9 podiums and 2 pole positions. Schumacher finished behind Harrison Newey and Joey Mawson, but ahead of future Formula 3 and future Formula 2 competitors of Yuri Vips, who, as of time of recording, is in the Red Bull Drivers Academy, and Felipe Drogovic. In April 2017, Schumacher made his debut in the FIA Formula 3 European Championship with the Prema Power Team. He finished the season in 12th place, his best finish being a 3rd place at Monza. Schumacher was the lowest finisher of the 4 Prema drivers, however, he was 3rd best placed rookie in the championship. Schumacher continued driving for Prema in the 2018 championship. He suffered a slow start to the season, eventually taking his first win at the 15th race of the year at Spa-Francorchamps. Almost halfway through the season before the race, he sat in 10th place in the championship, 67 points behind the championship leader, Dan Ticktum, who, once again, as of time of recording, was recently dropped from the Williams Drivers Academy, I believe. However, Schumacher domination in the latter half of the season, taking 7 more wins, including 5 consecutively. He ended up finishing the champion 57 points clear of second place Ticktum, taking 8 wins, 14 total podium finishes, 7 pole positions, and 4 fastest laps. I believe that Mick Schumacher has a reputation for doing quite poorly at the start of a season and then doing very well towards the end or the start of the next season in whatever he's in. As of time of recording, the F1 2022 championship hasn't started yet, but I think because of this trend, many people, including myself, are quite excited to see what Mick does in his second season of Formula 1, as his second seasons of Formula 3 and Formula 2 were so dominant. Formula 2. Schumacher moved up to the FIA Formula 2 Championship in 2019 with Prema Racing, alongside Sean Galal. Again, I apologise if I've said any of these pronunciations wrong, I know for a fact I have. At the first round of the season in Bahrain, Schumacher started 10th and finished 8th, after passing somebody on the final lap, giving him the reverse grid pole position for the sprint race, in which he finished 6th. Schumacher started from 7th in the feature race at Baku, but was forced into retirement after a spin. He recovered from 19th to 5th in the sprint race. He failed to score points in Barcelona, suffering a collision in the first race and a time penalty for an illegal overtake on Jack Aitken in the second. Jack Aitken is actually my favourite current Formula 2 driver. It's a shame, outside of that one time, we're never really going to see him in Formula 1 in my opinion. At Monaco, Schumacher collided with multiple cars in the feature race, bringing out a red flag. He would fail to score points in either race. A double retirement came at the circuit Paul Ricard, which is the French Grand Prix or the French Formula 2 race, after he was involved in a collision with teammate in the first race and suffered a puncture in the second. Schumacher stalled on the grid in the Red Bull Ring, which is in Austria, and finished 18th place before a charge through the field in the sprint race, which saw him finish 4th. Another sprint race record finish came for him at Silverstone, which is the British Grand Prix, with 6th place. He finished 8th at the feature race in Hungary, taking the reverse pole for the sprint race and holding the position to take his first win in Formula 2. Schumacher qualified 6th at Spa, which is the Belgian Grand Prix, but both races were cancelled due to an accident that caused the death of Antoine Hubert. I'm sorry, once again I did say that name wrong. I actually watched that race. It was a complete tragedy, of course. At Monza, he retired from the feature race for a power issue, but recovered to finish 6th in the sprint race, also achieving the fastest lap. He retired from both races in Russia after an engine issue in the first and collided with his teammate in the second. Schumacher finished the season with 9th and 11th place finishes in Abu Dhabi. He ended the season in 12th place in the championship with 53 points, considerably ahead of his teammate, and took 1 win and 1 fastest lap. He continued with Prima in the 2020 FIA Formula 2 Championship, joined by reigning FIA Formula 3 champion and fellow Ferrari Driver Academy member Robert Schwartzman, who again at the time of recording recently did very well in a test in the Haas car, I believe, in Formula 1. In the feature race at Austria, he went off while battling Callum Ilott, who I believe is another Formula 1 prospective driver for Ferrari, although I'm not sure what he's doing this season actually, for the race lead. In the second round at the same circuit, his fire extinguisher went off in the sprint race. In Hungary, Schumacher bounced back with a double podium. He then went on 5 consecutive podiums from Spain to Monza, including a win at the feature race at Monza, and took the championship lead at Mugello. He won the feature race at the next round in Russia and came 3rd in the sprint race, which was shortened due to a crash between Blucher and Jack Aitken. At the Bahrain round, he qualified in 10th and rose to 4th in the feature race. He finished 7th in the sprint race. As a result, Callum Ilott was able to bring the deficit down to 14 points going into the final round on the outer track at the same venue. In Sakhir, Schumacher qualified a career worst, 18th, following an incident with Roy Nissany, who I don't want to be too controversial, but I do not believe is worthy of a seat either in the Williams Drivers' Academy or Formula 2 generally. I'm not quite sure what he's doing there. I can only assume that money has a large part to play. He produced a good recovery drive up to 6th with the fastest lap. This meant that the points gap stayed the same going into the final race. In the sprint race, Schumacher flat-spotted his tyres while fighting for the lead, which led him to defending from Ilott for the first half of the race. After a few more lockups, he pitted for softs, dropping him out of the points. As a result of a hard attacking and defending, Ilott's tyres didn't fare better, and he too slowly fell out of the points. The result confirmed Schumacher as the 2020 FIA Formula 2 champion. It was a very good race to watch, that one. If you have the opportunity to watch it back, you definitely should. Formula 1. Schumacher was announced as a driver for the Ferrari Drivers' Academy on January 19, 2019. Schumacher followed in his father's footsteps and cited Ferrari as a big part of his heart, and the special ties with him, the team, within his family from childhood, was a significant part of joining the team's academy. Although I do feel like it's worth mentioning that Of course, Mick is the son of an all-time great, one of the greatest to ever do it. But Mick is in himself also an extremely competent racing driver and has, in my opinion, earned his seat in Formula One. On April 2019, Mick Schumacher made his debut behind the wheel of a modern Formula One car, piloting Scuderia Ferrari's SF90 during the first day of in-season testing at the Bahrain International Circuit, as the only debutant in the field. During the morning session of testing, Schumacher recorded a personal best time of 1:32.552 from 30 laps, placing him sixth fastest among other drivers after the rain stopped the session twice. Throughout the remainder of the day, Schumacher put in another 26 laps to set a final time of 1:29.972 on the softest available tyre compound, of which remained to be the fastest time until Red Bull Racing's Max Verstappen set a time of 1:29.379 5 minutes later. After Tuesday's test session, Schumacher said that he felt at home at Scuderia Ferrari and relished his test drive. "I really enjoyed today," he said. "It felt like home in the garage, and very first moment with a lot of people that have known me since I was very young. The SF90 is incredible because of the power it has, but it's also a smooth drive, and that's why I enjoyed it so much." Schumacher added that he was impressed by the braking power of a modern F1 car. "It seemed to me that you could brake later and later and the car would just make the turn anyway. I would like the opportunity to thank Ferrari for this incredible opportunity." Schumacher was to continue in season testing for Alfa Romeo Racing the following day. Schumacher was due to make his Formula One practice debut at the 2020 Eifel Grand Prix in the first practice session for Alfa Romeo Racing, in place of Antonio Giovinazzi. Due to bad weather conditions, the session was cancelled, so he performed no running. Schumacher made his Formula One practice debut at the 2020 Abu Dhabi Grand Prix in the first practice session, driving for Haas in place of Kevin Magnussen. He later made an appearance in Haas for the 2020 Young Driver Test. Ahead of the 2021 season, Schumacher requested the use of MSC, abbreviation for his name, shown on TV coverage. MSC was the abbreviation used by his father to distinguish between Michael and his brother Ralph, whose time in Formula One coincided. Schumacher had previously raced under the SCH abbreviation in Formula 2. Haas 2021 till present. Schumacher drives for the Haas team in 2021 after signing a multi-year contract alongside Nikita Mazepin, who, obviously it goes without saying, I do not like in the least, with whom he raced in go-karts. He chose to race with the number 47, as it used his two favourite numbers, 4 and 7, already in use. After the Formula One season finale in Abu Dhabi, Ferrari team principal said that they expected Schumacher to have a very difficult first season, but added that he believed he could drive for Ferrari as early as the 2023 season. Although, however, in my personal opinion, I don't know how confident I would be of that happening, as Ferrari do seem very keen on keeping Carlos Sainz for another couple of seasons. And why wouldn't they? He's been driving absolutely fantastically. Schumacher qualified 19th for his debut race in the Bahrain Grand Prix, ahead of Nikita Mazepin. Sorry, I've lost my place on the page. Bear with me for 1 second. Schumacher spun on the first lap but was able to continue, eventually finishing the last race, remaining drivers in 16th. At the next race in Imola Romagna Grand Prix, he crashed in front of the pit lane exit during a safety car period, breaking off his front wing. The pit lane was subsequently closed, allowing clearing for debris, preventing him from entering the pits for repairs for 2 laps. He again finished the race in 16th. Schumacher crashed heavily in practice for the Monaco Grand Prix, and the team was unable to repair his car in time for qualifying. He performed one of the only on-track overtakes in the Grand Prix, passing Mazepin at the Grand Hotel hairpin in the opening lap. It was actually quite an impressive overtake. At the Azerbaijan Grand Prix, he overtook Mazepin shortly before the finishing line, finishing ahead of only 0.074 seconds to claim 13th place, which I think is currently his career best place. I believe that is also the time when Mazepin did some interesting driving, and Schumacher had an outburst on the radio. Schumacher caused qualifying in the French Grand Prix to be red flagged after crashing, although this secured him 15th place on the grid and marked his first appearance in the second segment of qualifying, known as Q2. He finished the race 19th. He crashed in the final practice session for the Hungarian Grand Prix and was forced to miss qualifying as his car was not repaired in time. He finished 13th in the race after avoiding the collisions on the opening lap and was later promoted to 12th after Sebastian Vettel's disqualification. Pardon me, then that would be his best career finish. This was his highest race position of the season. Yes, I apologise. And he went on to say that he was proud of his performance after having on-track battles with Max Verstappen. Although I do think it's worth noting that Max Verstappen was using a damaged car. His first retirement came on lap 33 of the Russian Grand Prix with an oil leak. At the Turkish Grand Prix, Schumacher reached Q2 and qualified 14th, the highest qualifying position of his Formula One career at that point. He had Fernando Alonso collided on the opening lap, causing Schumacher to spin. He went on to finish 19th. Alonso later apologised for his role in the incident. He started the Mexico City Grand Prix 14th on the grid, but was eliminated at first corner after a collision with Esteban Ocon. At the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix, his race ended on lap 8 after crashing into a barrier, causing the race to, if I remember rightly, very controversially being red flagged. Schumacher ended the season 19th in the Drivers' Championship, ahead of teammate Mazepin, but with no points scored. Mazepin quite impressively managed to finish 21st out of a 20-car championship. 2022. Schumacher is set to remain with Haas for the 2022 season and will also serve as a reserve driver for Ferrari alongside Antonio Giovinazzi, who recently has left the Alfa Romeo racing team. Thank you for listening to this episode, and if you have got this far, remember there's a playlist on my channel with every episode of the podcast. I also just want to say this is actually the first episode of the podcast that I've done in one take. I've tried doing it slightly differently, as you can tell. I've decided, I don't know if it will help or not, let me know if you're still awake and feel like commenting. Maybe the more conversational style of this podcast might help of trying to do it in one take. It might feel more natural as opposed to a load of cuts. But if you can, let me know what you think. If you want to hear more Formula One related content, I would love to. As you might be able to tell, I am a huge Formula One fan. And I'd like to apologise one last time about some of my mispronunciations. I do understand that they must be incredibly frustrating. I try to record the podcast when I'm tired, so my voice would be a little more tired, if that makes sense, as I feel that's easier to fall asleep to. But thank you for listening. Please subscribe, thumbs up, leave a comment if you can, if you're still awake, And I will see you next time, which will hopefully be tomorrow, as I do plan on daily uploading. But anyway, thank you for listening, and good night.